It is quite hilarious and yet sad to watch black men each and every day talk about the importance of the nuclear family and how black families are under attack, while also making sure that they continue on this never ending cycle of these things that hurt the black family. Men like Nick Cannon and Cam Newton are not interested in anything other than themselves, and they must be stopped.
Y'all already know what time it is. I got the black V-neck on.
Dear Cam Newton, or what I want to say, which I can't say, Raccoon Newton, and men like Nick Cannon, this interview doesn't really shock me. And I know that it doesn't shock everybody else. Like, Cam Newton did an interview or a podcast, and he talked to Dr. Bryant, this relationship expert, and she gathered him. Like, she coddled him, but she gathered him in a way that should have made him feel comfortable to receive the information, because the things that she was saying made sense. It made a lot of sense, and it's very common sense, to be honest, if you really pay attention. Like, hey, you are not in these kids' lives. I don't have to have a doctorate degree or any certificate to understand that you having multiple families does not do anything for the actual kid. I don't care how much money you have. We've already seen and have joked about rich white folks, since y'all want to basically shape your family dynamics to what rich white folks do. But even rich white folks have talked about how their parents had plenty of money and yet they were never there. Like, you've never watched one episode of The Crown. Like, that was the main thing, is though as much money as they had to do so much to maintain the image of the crown and the monarchy that they were not able to be present to their children. We've seen this conversation several times of rich families not being in their children's lives or involved because they're too busy trying to make more money. And I love that Dr. Bryant made a comment about you will never be able to buy more time, which is true in the sense that, and we can talk about that, which is why Cam Newton's sitting here talking about this very thing and monetizing his stupid beliefs of how he is entitled to have multiple kids with different women, like creating broken families. Like, that's essentially what he's doing. And we need to name that. We need to name that. I was watching a TikTok video and someone said that she wished that a man stepped in and had a conversation with Cam Newton, and, you know, two men sitting down. That's already happened. Like, you know, I get folks saying, well, women should not have to do this work or this labor, but if women are the victims of things like a Cam Newton, it should be a woman to talk about these things. And, you know, let's talk about it, because someone sent me this message, and shout out to them on Twitter, like, does desire play into this? Well, yes, it does. Like, even from Dr. Bryant, like, even him having to receive information from Dr. Bryant, like, the only reason why he paid attention to her is because he wanted to date her. Like, he might not have said it, but even when she named that she does not want to date men who have kids, that clicked for him, because people like Cam Newton are not being told no. It's not just like a woman challenging him, but he's not being told, no, you can't do that. And there's a lot of like instances I've seen where folks have done things and they're not being told no. They've never been told no. It's not just the woman telling them or like whatever. It is them being told no. First of all, y'all are men. We live in patriarchy. Like, it exists. Men benefit from being men. And the more money that you have, the more access and the more power that you can, you know, wield. And he's even receiving more power and influence from social media as men throughout TikTok, Twitter, Instagram agree with what he's saying. This is not somebody who went to school to talk about, the family or any type of sociology degree. Cam Newton hasn't had a career in any of these things. But because of his celebrity access and because of him looking the way he does, we feel like, oh, he should be able to like talk about like these certain things. Like, we have so many people building like platforms off of nonsense, and it's becoming so dangerous to the point that we're seeing an increase of women like being unalived from content like this. And I'm not putting the blame on Cam Newton or even Nick Cannon, but this is dangerous for women, period. All of this ideology and the way they are thinking and the way they are saying it's basically okay to dispose of women puts women in harm's way. They're already in harm's way already, but puts them even more in harm's way because majority of women are not running into a Cam Newton. They're not running into Cam Newtons. They're not. Like, they're running into men who do not make anywhere near the amount of money that a Cam Newton does. But they still believe that. They still believe that. So they would think if they make a little bit more money than women, which is by design, if we talk about like comparison to men and women and like who gets paid more, like that's going to happen anyway, to the point that men are turned off and do not like it when women make more than them. There was a joke that this woman made some years ago. I don't remember where it was. The woman said she was dating this man and he made less than her. And to make him feel important, she would allow him to come and do stuff around the house and play dumb because she knew how to do the thing so she can pay somebody to do it. But it gave him a sense of like being needed or like important. Like, women do that. Like, I'm seeing folks now trying to say that, oh, it doesn't matter if, we have these conversations about Cam Newton's or whatever. Like, there are going to be women who are going to like, be interested in talking to a Cam Newton and will throw themselves and participate in these things. And yes, and I'm not going to spend my time blaming these women for being in these scenarios, because at the end of the day, a victim would not be a victim if it was not for the perpetrator. Like, period. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't stop these, but like they're gonna do what they're gonna do. So we stop that, we stop it all. Like, but again, even in situations where women are putting men on child support and all of that other stuff, women do not have power like that. Like, this idea that women can put men on child support and mess up their lives and all that other stuff, it's just like, women still do not have that type of power. And men are upset that women are making them responsible for something that they helped create. I don't understand it. What's also hilarious to me is how much, no shade, how much there is scrutiny on like queer folks, specifically Black queer folks. Like, there was a conversation about homeboy Zale Swag on Instagram about him dating this woman, and folks were saying, oh, does she know that he's bisexual? Like, what's going on? Like, heterosexual folks can have as much as they want to, as much of what's the name as they want to, but the moment it's us, it's like we need to be tested, we need to be all the other things. Like, the stigma of all these things jump out, and we know that heterosexual men do not get tested. Like, they barely want to go to the doctor. So it's just like, girl, like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. But on the broken family situation, you have Cam Newton saying that in response, he says that I want more kids. Like, and he inserts God in the conversation. And people do that in a specific type of way to protect them from any criticism, because who are you to tell me what God told me? And that's why when folks name stuff like that, it's a slippery slope to me, because our connection and how we feel about religion, it allows folks to do and twist words and things because none of it's being scrutinized. Like, there are more people using God, the idea of God, in a negative way than there are people who are using it in a good way. Like, this is what God told me to do, and that's dangerous. That is extremely dangerous. And he does that. Cam Newton is doing that in this conversation. And he's so irritated now by her even coddling him and trying to, seemingly like she's trying to like have a conversation with him. He has now changed the title of the video, like, you're 41 years old, you're a relationship expert, and you're single. Maybe she's single because she realized that the men who are out here are not good. Like, there's this idea that just because you're single, oh, you can't find a man. Like, maybe a lot of them are trash and we just don't want to deal with them. Like, maybe I've heard enough of y'all experiences of being in relationships that I'm like, I don't want to deal with any of that. So I'm very picky of who I want to be in a relationship with. But what's interesting is Kirk Franklin just talked about this in an interview about how the church works and pressures folks to be in relationships and marriages, to be in certain positions in the church and the black church, period. Like, you need to have this, you need to be to the point that folks will be in relationships that they don't need to be in. And Cam Newton is currently, if not in a relationship, and I didn't even realize it, the way he was talking in this interview. Like, you got this woman, like, you know, being discarded. Like, he is saying that he wants more kids, but he's not saying that he wants a family. Like, and it's not about procreating, it's about power. There are plenty of black kids, period, that do not have homes, are going to be hungry, who need to be adopted and taken care of. And y'all idea is like, oh, I want to have more of. It's not about the kids. And for a lot, no shade, for a lot of folks, the kids are a second thought for a lot of people, to be honest. The way we talk about kids, the way we talk about kids, the way we already condition them before they are even born, like, just the concept of them. Like, you are not saying that you want a family, not even a community, because I don't believe in the idea of the nuclear family. I believe in community. Like, yes, you can have a child, like a single person can raise a child, but is this single mother being supported by community? Like, that's what matters. Doesn't matter about the nuclear family, mom, dad. It matters about community showing up. Community showing up for the children. And y'all are not trying to build communities. Y'all are trying to own communities. Like, y'all are not interested in putting these kids in a position of them to receive love and affection and all of that. You cannot be in multiple places at one time. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You don't have it. Like, you don't, I don't know, like, girl, there's been plenty of cartoons and stuff about, and plenty of movies about parents not being there for their kids. Like, how y'all not paying attention to that? You are creating a broken family. You are, because you are considering yourself amongst everything else. It only matters that you keep having kids. You can keep saying you're providing, you're a good father. A good father is just not a father who is providing financial support. A good father is realizing that, hey, I need to be in this child's life as much as I can be. And y'all got it confused. But what I've thought about in this conversation with, like, the Nick Cannons and the Cam Newtons is that this is not something new. To be honest, how many times we've seen and heard of the, married dad or whatever having kids, the grandpa, whatever, having kids outside the marriage, and y'all don't find out to the family function or the funeral or something. Like, this is not new. Y'all been doing it. Y'all are just justifying it now because ultimately it was about power. The woman had to be in the household, so the woman could not leave the house. They did not have jobs. They could not make any money. And they were surviving off of being married to the man and the man being the sole provider. Y'all are essentially doing the same things. Like, y'all are doing the same things. Like, y'all want to be, like, dependent on. That's why someone like a Dr. Bryant scares y'all, and women who are knowing their worth and saying they don't want this, even though y'all are saying y'all not interested in them, like, them holding power and realizing their autonomy and all of that, And being aware of that bothers so many men. It's like you looking at how you perceive yourself, how you see yourself as a person who is that. So you're thinking that women are doing the same thing. Like, oh, Dominic, no, you are doing these things. The women are not doing that. You and yourself are doing that. And Cam Newton sitting up here looking like the angry Mad Hatter with an agenda to procreate and make more kids. Like, girl, it's just like I've been calling him Raccoon Newton. None of this surprises me. His ideology is ignorant. He's always been stupid, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Cam Newton has said some ignorant things over the years. Like, so this honestly does not surprise me. But this is the idea of a lot of men. And we need to talk more about how these podcasts and, you know, men doing these videos and stuff like this are dangerous, because y'all have young Black teenagers watching y'all, like boys watching it and consuming this, and they are taking it out on Black women. So y'all think that y'all are not doing anything but kikiing and laughing and stuff, but y'all are inciting Black men to, you know, feel like this is how it's supposed to go. Like, this is what it is. And it's really disheartening. But it doesn't surprise me, like, because this is the things that we've been talking about, like how y'all are moving and how y'all talk about women. Like, y'all, you know, don't really be attracted to these women like that. Y'all be attracted to the power y'all have over them. And y'all show us time and time again. There were so many men agreeing and trying to say that, oh, Cam Newton's not wrong as long as he's being financially there. That's not enough. It's not enough. It will never be enough. And, you know, they don't realize that. And what happens when you can't make any? Like, what happens if he experiences some traumatic event where it costs him so much money to, you know, now, like, you know, spend so much money on hospital bills and all these things? Like, what happens to these women who have these kids? What happens to them? You have 8 kids with 3 different women. And the idea of a woman saying that she doesn't want to be interested or date a man with kids pisses you off. Like, why does that make you upset that she's not interested? Because it's about power. Y'all want to be desired. Y'all want to be desired. And y'all want to be desired amongst all things. Like, y'all want to be able to be terrorists in the community, but also be desired. And you want to be desired because y'all have money. Somebody made a joke that Black men, if anything, are turned on by men with clout and money. Like, period. I believe it. Like, they love it. They encourage it. Like, that's why a lot of their faves, you know, have no problem showing it. Like, they love to see that because they want to be that. Y'all are essentially like still high school teenagers. And we need to have a conversation about that. That's all I got. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. And Cam Newton, I hope you find some therapy, because that's the only thing that you need to be paying for at this point. Period.